Welcome, everybody, to the Field of 68 After Dark Big East edition. We are previewing the Big East Conference. I'm John Fanta. We've got Rob Dauster, the founder of our network, and UConn expert with us tonight. We've got the pride of the Xavier Musketeers. I would want to go to battle with this guy any day of the week. We are so excited to welcome in Kenny Frease for this season. Kenny, it is great to have you. We'll get you in a moment. And we've got the pride of Marquette University, the Golden Eagles, coming off a second weekend trip to the NCAA tournament for the first time in over a decade. Can they keep it rolling? We think they could. We've got Jerel McNeal here from the Marquette Golden Eagles. So we've got a lot of Big East flavor. We've got tremendous additions to our roster collectively this year. But, Rob, I'm going to throw to you before I throw to these guys. I just love seeing Kenny Frease and Jerel McNeal in the house tonight.
Yeah, I'm fired up, man. We were was talking to these guys before we hit record, and I can tell you this much. I know Jerel's excited about Marquette, but I know Kenny is fired up about Xavier. And yeah, we're going to, at some point here, we're going to let him say his piece because I think he's got some thoughts and some takes on the Musketeers that will make the entire city of Cincinnati get fired up.
I can see you grinning ear to ear, Kenny. Welcome to the Field of 68. I don't think people fully understand with that Xavier flag in the background.
Yeah.
What Xavier basketball means in that area and what Xavier has become as a brand. And surely you've got more than enough stories because I've already heard them from your former coaches. That's for damn sure. But can you reflect first before I get to Jerel on what Xavier basketball means to the Cincinnati area and beyond?
Well, without throwing too much shade at the Bearcats, Xavier is the, quote unquote NBA team of the area. At least it was when I was there. The city just galvanizes around Xavier. Obviously, we're a little bit outside of the city, but just the fan base and everything going back to 2004 with David West. And, it's interesting watching this fan base as they were not great last year. It's the first time that they've seen a losing season in 30 years. And you can really feel that in the arena and everything. When you go watch the games, it was just different. Not to say that the crowd wasn't great because they were, but it was just a different feeling. And going from a Sweet 16 year, coming back to what we had last year, and now moving into this year with so much hype around this team, it's exciting.
And I'd be remiss to not bring up I think it's interesting. We got a Xavier alum, we got a Marquette alum, because Jerel McNeal, before we get into the rest of the show, I think Rob and I have talked about this. We've sensed a renaissance of Marquette basketball. Fiserv Forum, for those who don't know, Jerel, when you were playing at the Bradley Center, it was wild there. But man, absolutely. I mean, that as much as the Bucks are a pro team, Marquette carries the same weight in the downtown Milwaukee area, do they not?
Absolutely, and I think the Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee is different when the Golden Eagles are good and they're rolling, John, and it gives you a little bit of a different vibe. It's definitely one of the draws, a major recruiting pitch. It was when I was getting ready to make my college decision. Back then, it was the Bradley Center, the BC, and at the time, we went through a nice little stretch there when I was in school where the Bucks weren't great, so Marquette basketball was riding high, and we were kind of competing for sellouts at one point in time. So we were able to pack that thing out, and now that they got a brand new arena, obviously a lot of that has to do with the Greek Freak as well. So he kind of got the momentum and had the city ablaze, and Shaka Smart has done an absolutely great job of just coming in and keeping that thing rolling, man. So it's been fun to watch over the last few years.
All right, Rob, I'm going to have you take it big picture here before we get to the back-to-back reigning national champions. In your mind, Rob, what's the state of the Big East Conference?
I think it's actually better than it was last year, and we were really excited about where the conference overall was last year, John. I think I predicted that it would get 7 or 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. That looks pretty dumb sitting here right now, but I will say that with St. John's, with Providence, and with Seton Hall, they were all like one win, one possession in a close game away from finding themselves on the right side of the bubble last year. And I would make the argument that if you don't have the number of bid thieves that we had last year, during championship week, then we probably have 5 or 6 Big East teams in the NCAA tournament. It is what it is. I think the bottom of the conference is better than it's been in recent seasons. I firmly believe that Georgetown is going to be on the right trajectory. I'm not saying that they're an NIT team this year even, but I think that we're looking at 5, 6, maybe 7 Big East wins out of them. And I think DePaul's on the right direction too. I think Holt went out and got a whole bunch of guys that can shoot. And when you lift the bottom of the conference up, it's going to make everybody else, all those numbers better, those computer metrics better. It's going to make all that look better. The one thing I will say, and I'm curious what all of your guys' opinions is on this, I think that the top of the league is going to be, it's not going to be as top heavy, right? I think that UConn is going to have some work to do to get to the point where they are as dominant as they've been the last couple of years. They're still very, very good, still championship contender worthy, but they have some things that they have to kind of streamline before they get back to being that, to me, the clear-cut title contender in the Big East. I think Creighton's got some things they got to figure out. I think Marquette replacing Tyler and Oso is like, that is as much as you have to replace with anybody in the conference. And then, obviously Providence losing Devin Carter is going to be a big loss. So I'm very curious to see how you guys see this playing out. But I think that it's like a top 4/5 with maybe St. John's kind of getting in there. I think it's going to be more balanced. I think it's going to be more fun, and it's going to be the Big East tournament this year. Jerel, especially if we spend a night down at Schaefer's, it's gonna
be
too much, man.
What was that night like, Jerel?
Oh God, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we have enough time in this segment for that, John. But let's just say we had some good times, and Schaefer's is a place I'll make sure I'm visiting every time I step foot in New York for the rest of my days. So they were more than hospitable for us. They took care of us. Me and Rob had some fun, and we got a chance to watch some great basketball at the Garden that week.
Kenny, I saw you nodding to Rob's comments. Yeah. What do you think of the Big East and kind of how this thing shakes out? How, when you're looking at how you peg the teams in this league, what's your mindset? What's your thought process with that?
Well, I think you're exactly right. It's going to be 4 or 5 teams. Now I'm never going to take, as much as it pains me to say it, I'm never going to take UConn off the top until somebody comes and takes them off. I mean, obviously they've won 2 in a row. They've been pretty dominant in the Big East the last 2 years. Am I going to sit here and say that they're going to beat Xavier? Absolutely not. That's just not who I am. But I think that they need somebody to come. They need somebody to come in and knock them off if they want to take that spot from them. So I think that there's a lot. But you're right, though. 4 or 5 teams. Xavier obviously is going to be much better than they were last year. DePaul and Georgetown. Just as a quick thing, I think that bringing in guys that maybe weren't like respected in their minds at the schools that they were at, having a bunch of guys transfer in, that can bring a lot of energy to a team, and also just having new coaches and all that stuff kind of lifts a program up energy wise in general.
All right, let's turn to those UConn Huskies. Rob, Jerel, Kenny. Jerel, Kenny, you'll remember the order because we're going to go right. You guys are going to take it right off Rob's point. Rob first. Rob, UConn's ranked 3rd in the country. Is that right in your mind? And what's the key for this team as they try to pursue something that only John Wooden has done?
Well, I think that it probably is. It's fair where they are ranked. I don't know if they are today the 3rd best team in college basketball. I think that if everything comes together, they have a chance to be as good as anybody, including Alabama and Kansas, in college basketball. But there's some things that they got to get worked out. I need to see a little bit more out of Hassan Diarra at the point guard spot. Right, I think so much of what they did last year was reliant on being able to have Tristan Newton get the ball at the end of a clock and be able to run all these actions for Cam Spencer. And I think that it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of work through that. I do think that if they have a 3-headed monster of Aiden Mahaney, solo ball, who, by the way, he's going to be the real deal. He looked unbelievable in their exhibition. The hype around the program talking about his breakout has been very real. So Hassan, solo ball, and Aiden Mahaney is a 3-headed monster for those 2 backcourt spots. I think will be good. They got 1 billion wings, and that'll settle itself out. But the other part is interior. They gave up 18 offensive rebounds to URI in their exhibition. They got to be able to find a way to get a little bit tougher, a little bit more physical in the paint, and frankly, better defensively. They foul too much. at this point as well. So those are the things that they have to figure out. My hot take, Jerel, is that if Terrace Reed, the Michigan transfer, finds a way to be able to kind of live up to what his physical tools say he should be as a 5-man, it's processing and thinking the game is not quite there yet, but he has the tools to be a 12-9, couple blocks, assist and a half guy in the Big East. And if he gets to that level by the end of the season, that's where I think UConn kind of hits their ceiling.
Nope, and I'm right with you on that one, Rob. First and foremost, I don't think they're ranked too highly. At the end of the day, they're back-to-back national champs. You kind of got to put some respect on it, and
You do,
ultimately
Jerel. You back to back. Say it again. Say it louder for the people in the back.
You can't argue with the results, and Hurley, Dan Hurley has earned that respect. So and at this rate, they don't really rebuild; they just reload. And they got a ton of guys that they brought in this year. Like you said, I think Terrace Reed is going to go a long way for kind of shoring up the front court for those guys and giving them some kind of presence. It'll be different from what they had in guys like Klingon and Sanogo over the past couple of years. But at the same time, they lost Castle, they lost Newton, they lost Spencer, but they got a good freshman in the McNeely kid. I think he'll have a little bit of growing pains, but ultimately he'll figure it out pretty quickly, and he'll give them another reliable kind of guard wing hybrid that can stretch the floor as well too. So man, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I don't think it'll go unscathed, and it won't be as dominant as it has been over these last couple years. But ultimately they'll level out to a point where everybody realizes they're still going to be one of the top teams for sure in the Big East.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that often gets discounted in college basketball is the culture of a team, and they've built that culture over the last couple of years. Dan Hurley has done a really good job of bringing those guys in, making them play within the system. Obviously, you have Caravan coming back, who's odds-on favorite to be Big East Player of the Year. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I think that would be my main point, is just the culture of the team. They have a winning culture. They have a winning championships culture. And when you bring new guys into that, it's easier to get them to fall in line.
And what they've done as a program is win 43 of their last 46 games and 12-0 in the NCAA tournament, with all 12 of those wins coming by a combined 260 points. I think that I would just say, and I don't know what you all think, but this is just my take. If they were to do anything close to that in the NCAA tournament again, that would be as incredible of a feat in this current climate of college basketball that we've ever seen, and almost unthinkable. Not because I don't think that they have the talent to contend again, but because I do think there's a variety of questions for this team to answer that the past two haven't to the same degree. So that's kind of where I'm at with this team. And I agree with Rob. UConn has been overwhelming on the glass the last 2 years. That is a key thing heading into this season. Can they get close to that level? Can they still be a really controlling team on the glass? Because right now it feels like that's going to be a work in progress, at least to start the season. We're just getting started. So the question coming out of our break: who is the biggest adversary to UConn? Who is the second best team in the Big East? And who's the third best team in the Big East? We'll get to Creighton. We'll get to Xavier. We'll get to Marquette. We'll even get to Friartown. We're just getting started on After Dark, the Big East preview.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. It's our Big East preview. We've got Rob Dauster, we've got Kenny Frease, Jerel, McNeal, and I'm John Fanta. Who is the biggest adversary to UConn in the Big East? Who is the second best team in the Big East? Kenny Frease, we start with you, then to Jerel, and then to Rob.
I mean, you know where I'm going. It's right behind me here. Xavier is going to be a much improved team this year. I don't think any team in the country has had as good of an offseason as Xavier had. You go from a team that doesn't make the tournament to a team that in some polls is ranked in the top 25. And in my mind, I think that you have a team that it would be disappointing for me if they don't go to the Sweet 16 this year. I know that they lost Traore. That's a huge hit to the team. I think that they're able to make that up in a couple different ways, playing small ball. They're bringing it. They got Hughley coming in at 6'10". He's a big body. It's nice to see another big body at Xavier again. They're able to match up with those teams that have big 7-footers, but they're also able to match up in a 4-guard Fremantle at the 5 type of set and give people a lot of curveballs. Conwell and Maddox, I watched them play in Dayton for that scrimmage, and both of them, they really fit the bill of what we were sold all offseason. They can both shoot the ball from 30 feet and in. Conwell is a really good playmaker. He can get to the hoop. One of the biggest surprises for me in that game, because I haven't seen a lot about him, was Marcus Foster. If he can shoot the ball like he did 2 years ago at almost a 40% clip, he's able to get to the basket. I think that they have some good physical guards as well. Fremantle is another guy that if he plays to his potential, he could be in that Big East Player of the Year talk as well. I think that he has the pedigree for that. And then Jerome Hunter coming back after everything he's been through, all the injuries, all the health problems, all that stuff. He's a glue guy of the team. He really brings like the heart and soul of the Xavier team and what this team needs to be about if they want to be good. So I'm really excited. Yeah,
Kenny, here's my question on Xavier. I think I'm going to throw last year out the window just because with all the injuries and everything they dealt with. I think it's very hard to get a gauge on what Sean actually wanted to do. I think if you look at the 2023 season, they were a top 10 offense. They were a good enough defense to get them to the Sweet 16 and a team that wanted to play like this.
Yep.
To be able to get past that, right? To be more than like just, okay, we're going to do the second weekend and call that a great year. I think they have to level up on the defensive end. Have you seen that from them, and where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think that, Traore was going to be a big part of that. I'm not going to lie about that. He was a very good low post defender, which is something that they've struggled with. And especially last year, but even the year before, they weren't great. So I think that Hughley being able to really handle other big men in the Big East is going to be a big factor. Staying out of foul trouble, Jerome staying out of foul trouble, just being able to continuously throw guys at that 4-5 position that are going to give you different looks. They're going to play Dalen Swain at the 4 some, and that's going to be interesting, being able to spread the floor. But you're right, defensively has been a struggle for them. At the end of the day, I think that Xavier's mindset this year is going to be do as good as you can on defense and outscore everybody. They're going to play fast. They're going to play really, really fast. They got Maddox and Conwell running the wings. They got Jerome and they got Fremantle running into the post. Fremantle's even hitting some, trailing threes and all that stuff this year too, which could be a really interesting dynamic. I didn't see much of that. Obviously past couple of years. That was nice to see in Dayton against that game in Dayton. But I think just the speed they play with, if they're able to rebound the ball, defense becomes a little bit less important if you're able to hold teams to one shot and get out and score 85, 90 points a game.
Which is how they made a Sweet 16 2 years ago. Stule Boom just went on a mission, and they made the second weekend of the tournament. Jerel, who's the second best team in the Big East?
I'm going to stay with the trend, and I'm going to keep it with the home team as well, John. As hard as this may believe, Marquette coming in, losing Obviously two major staples of their team with Kolick and also I got full confidence in the boys. Still to me it's just mind blowing that one of the most unique things in college basketball in this climate. No guys in the portal, no guys out of the portal. Uh Coach Smart is going
He's
all in on his development and the guys that he has there. And John, I've seen something, I think it was had to be last night or the day before, but you kind of beat me to the punch with it, man. Uh it's time for Cam Jones to get his just due. We got a chance to watch him down the stretch there last year, man, and he was absolutely unbelievable when Kolick was out with the abdominal injury toward the end of the year, man. And he kind of put that thing on his back, and I think it was really cool to see because it kind of gave us some foresight of what's to come this year. But they also got a ton of guys that'll be back. Look out for Sean Jones. I know he probably won't be ready right away, but when he gets healthy, one of the most explosive and electric players in the country with the ball in his hands. Look, I got a chance to get up there not too long ago. Ben Gold is primed for another breakout year as well too. Did some great work with his body, put on some added weight, so he'll give us some a different dynamic than Oso. Not as probably good as a passer, but it can stretch the floor with his shooting, a sort of a stretch five position as well. And then you obviously got Stevie Mitchell, you got Chase Ross back, all of those guys, and I would be remiss to not to mention David Joplin. And I think we're looking for Jop to come in and take another major step this year and kind of be that number two guy alongside Cam that's going to be a lot more consistent, get him some scoring punch and help rebound the basketball. So I'm looking forward to the Golden Eagles this year.
Jerel, Cam Jones, point guard.
Combo guard now, Rob. I think he never really got the opportunity to show or play on the ball as much, which he didn't need to with TK. But man, I wasn't sure if he was capable until I saw it last year. I think he's made strides as a playmaker, and from what I hear, he's been putting in nonstop work all summer, just preparing himself to step up for that role of him having the ball in his hands a ton more. So I think he'll be good making plays for other guys, and obviously we all know he could fill it up with the best of them because he led them in scoring last year.
Think about this. We've never seen Shaka Smart without Tyler Kolick at Marquette. It's just going to be weird to see their offense. It's going to be weird to see them play without him running the show. And Iguodala was such an invaluable piece. Rob, who's the second best team in the Big East?
Well, just for the record, I love both Creighton and Marquette. I think they're both top 15, top 20.
Xavier and Marquette.
Yeah, Xavier and Marquette.
Right.
But I'm going to go with Creighton for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is I think that they have not only the best defensive piece in the Big East, but the best defensive piece in college basketball. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner changes everything that you can do on the defensive end of the floor, and getting him back for a fifth year. I mean, just Kenny Jerel, you guys know this. When you guys have a 7-footer that doesn't foul, that understands how to just stand straight up and make it impossible to finish in and around 8 feet from the rim, it kind of eliminates some of the concerns that you have with defensive issues on the perimeter. We saw that last year with UConn. Cam Spencer, Tristan Newton, Alex Caravan. These guys are not great defenders on the perimeter. They're good. They're probably right around average, maybe a little bit above average, but UConn was a top 5 defense in America because they had the big fella Donovan Clingan around the basket. And I think that with Kalkbrenner there, it changes everything. And oh, by the way, he also averages 18 points a game. And oh, by the way, he's also going to be making threes this year, guys. And oh, by the way, they're going to be doing some different things with him in ball screens this year. I think getting Pop Isaacs is a really, really big add because you have someone that can make something happen out of nothing. Like, we know what you're going to get out of Greg McDermott's offensive sets. Like, he's going to run some shit and they're going to get guys off pin downs and they're going to get these creative little actions and they're going to get open threes for guys like Steven Ashworth and Mason Miller. And assuming he gets eligible, Fedor Zugic. But I think Pop allows you to be able to have a little bit of a different look and a different dynamic in terms of who you have in the backcourt. And you combine all of that again with the fact that you have the guy that for me is I would say is the preseason Big East Player of the Year. It's either Cam Jones or Ryan Kalkbrenner for me. I would probably lean Kalk, but I think Creighton, just because of what their floor can be defensively and what their ceiling will be if and when they get the Zugic kid eligible.
Yeah, that's a big one. If they can get Zugic eligible, I agree with you on Kalkbrenner. People don't fully account for just how great he is. And at the end of the day, you have elite point guard play, tremendous center play, and Pop Isaacs is going to be the beneficiary of that. Don't forget about Jemiah Neal and the role that he can play as a supplemental guy. Creighton loves those supplemental guys. You know, they saw it with Jason Green last year when he stepped up in the NCAA tournament. So I think that Creighton, like, we don't fully appreciate the country, meaning they've gone to the second weekend 3 of the last 4 years, right? Got an Elite Eight trip in there too. Last year, if they don't run into Dalton Connect, they very well could have been in the Elite Eight.
Hey, they should have been in a Final Four in 2023.
Yeah,
We're
brutal.
gonna see her pretend like Darian Trammell actually got fouled there. Like, is that? Do we think that actually happened?
It's a sore subject. It's a sore subject. But I'm going to make the case for St. John's. Right?
Ooh.
Rick Pitino, year 2. Rick Pitino, year 2. Well, year 2 at Providence, he went to a Final Four. Year 2 in which he was eligible at Kentucky, had a tremendous season, right? Made it very, very far. Louisville, year 2, went from an under 500 team to a 20-plus win team and into the NCAA tournament. He is known for getting things to upswing in a big way in year 2. Here's why I like them. They're not over-reliant on one piece, yet they have some pieces who were over-relied upon at their previous stops. Kadari Richmond was relied upon to do so much for his team. Davon Smith was relied upon to do so much for Utah. Do you know how refreshing it is, and the players can speak to this, when you know you're on a team where you don't have to carry the workload of an offense for the whole game? I think that front court is underrated. Zuby Ejiofor got better in the offseason. Vincent Iwuchukwu is going to be a body for this team. If this team gets production and health, if RJ Lewis stays healthy, and Brady Dunlap and Sim Wilcher are making enough shots, they have a chance to be really good because Richmond is an elite defender. And Smith is, the guy had 5 triple-doubles last year, Rob. Like, the Johnnies, right. I think St. John's, Rob, you're kind of in a discourse thing with them, right? Like, last year, everybody was buying. And then they made us look foolish early when they got blown out by Michigan. This year, you have some people buying, but I think people would be buying to another degree had they found a way to get into that tournament last year and had there not been so many bid stealers. That's kind of my thinking.
Yeah, but here's my question. It's like, I guess you got to define what buying St. John's is, right? I think everybody buys them as being good enough to be a tournament team and being at the very minimum, but like in the conversation for preseason top 25 right now. Some people got them like in the top 20. Some people don't have them ranked, but I think we all agree that they are going to be like a top 30, 35 kind of team in college basketball at minimum. Is that buying them? Is that not buying them? Like we got to,
so here's what I'm buying.
Okay.
I'm buying that they end the NCAA tournament win drought. They haven't won a tournament game in 25 years. Jerel, do you think that this is the year they break through?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, John. And it's primarily you started and kind of started to speak to it. I think they're going to have one of the best, if not the best, backcourt. Not only in the Big East but around the country with Richmond and Smith. And I was reading some stuff early, and both of those guys were just speaking to how much they enjoy playing with one another early on. And like you said, as a player, especially as a guard, it's always great playing with other playmakers where you don't feel like you have to constantly be the only option to, not just score, but put pressure on the defense and create and get other guys shots. And I think both of those guys kind of fit into what Coach Pitino traditionally likes to do. And I said this last year, I was one of the few people who said that probably I didn't think that St. John's was going to get in last year. And that wasn't at the end of the year. That was early in the year. I just thought it was going to take at least another year for Pitino to turn that roster over and get some more his type of guys in. And I think they've done a good job of that. So in year 2, I'm buying them, man. As long as they get some production from that front court and some guys that can get on that glass and rebound to be different with Soriano gone now, who's a shoe-in for 10 boards. But as long as they get that, they'll be a fun team to watch. And I think they at least get one win in the NCAA tournament.
Kenny, Johnny's?
Yeah, I think that they have the talent to get there. Something that people overlook sometimes is, being a guy that was recruited by a lot of different coaches. There are certain coaches in the country that players are either excited to play for or they're scared to play for, right? And Pitino is one of those guys. So I think that he has all of the tools. I think he has the ability to get those guys there. How well can he get them to buy in? Is he having them run, 3-hour practices all year, running them like crazy? I think that's going to be a big thing for me, is watching them as they go through the season. If they continue to get better, if they start to wear down a little bit, I think that they have all the talent that they need. And I agree. I think that they're going to end up getting to the NCAA tournament this year and probably win a game, because they're going to go through the gauntlet in the Big East. They're going to be battle tested. I don't think that that's going to be a problem, but I think if those guys if they really buy into Pitino, I think that then they'll be fine.
We've got a break coming up. How would you tier this league out beyond the teams that we've talked about? Who's the next best team? Is it the team out of Providence, Rhode Island? Could it be the reigning NIT champions who emerge? What about Hinkle Magic? And the pressure is on in the main line. What can we expect from year 3 of the Kyle Neptune era at Villanova? All that and more. This is After Dark, Big East Preview Edition.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners, the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark Big East Preview Edition. John Fanta, Rob Dauster, Kenny Frease, Jerel, McNeal. Kenny, let's look at the rest of this league, right? You've got a Providence program that brought in a lot of talent via the transfer portal. Now can Bryce Hopkins be back and healthy? You've got Villanova entering a really critical year behind Eric Dixon, and the Wildcats, if they were to miss 3 straight NCAA tournaments, it's the elephant in the room. They haven't done that since the early 2000s. You've got Seton Hall. Shaheen Holloway looks like one of the best coaching stars in the country, best rising ones for sure. And the Pirates have some feisty talent playing with a chip on their shoulder, like Scotty Middleton, Chauncey Jenkins, and Prince Aligbe. And you've got Butler, who could play some bully ball with Jameel Telfort, Pierre Brooks, of course, Georgetown, DePaul, and can they take a leap as well? But Kenny Frease, of the teams that we haven't talked about yet, you guys have talked Xavier, Creighton, Marquette, St. John's. Which team and the storyline associated with them intrigues you heading into this season?
I'm going to go outside of the teams that that you just talked about there, and this is going to be a hot take, I think, but I believe that Georgetown is going to be in the middle of the league this year, 6,
How
7.
about that?
I really do, and the reason I think that is, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you talk about, being the only option, all this stuff. These guys that are coming into Georgetown, I haven't seen them play a ton, but I can tell you just from the mindset that I would have had as a player going into a new organization, you have a fresh new face at the head coach. you have a lot of guys that were, second or third options on their teams last year. They're coming into a team where they're going to be able to build this program up together. And I think that is going to be something that is a good storyline going through the season, that they're going to be able to kind of take that step. I don't think that they're going to be competing for the top of the Big East, nothing like that. But I think that you're going to see them take a major leap this year and get back to Georgetown of old.
They need to, Rob. Like, you can't just be 2-18 in the Big East. I don't care what team you've got, and the 2 wins are over DePaul. Do you think that we're talking about a situation here with Jaden Epps and Malik Mack
I think
and Micah Peavy?
Yeah, I think the foundation is being built for Georgetown to kind of make a run at a Big East championship in 2 years or maybe in 3 years. So next year, maybe the year after. And it's hard to plan that way in this era of college basketball. But I think that if you are not able to go out and get the biggest names out of the portal, like if you're not pulling Janelle Davis or you're not pulling any of these guys that were ranked at the very, very top of the rankings for all of these transfers, then you kind of have to be able to develop it within your program. And I think that's what Ed's trying to do here. And I would also say Malik Mack and Jaden Epps, it's probably not as good as Xavier's backcourt. It's probably not as good as St. John's backcourt. But that's a competitive backcourt in the Big East.
You're right.
If they can find a way to be, and like Micah Peavy's a good wing. Like they have Jordan Burks is going to be like a solid role player, but they got to find a way to be able to kind of develop some kind of front court scoring and also some front court solidity. And I don't know if it's going to be the big Julius kid from New Zealand. I don't know if it's going to end up being, Drew McKenna or Drew Fielder or one of these guys. But I think that the foundations are there to be able to get it going. And I think, look, we'll talk about DePaul here too. Jerel, you're a Chicago guy. I think that Holtman has built some. There are good bones in that program right now because of how many guys he brought in that can shoot and how many guys he brought in that are going to play the way that he wants to play and the way that he wants to coach. And I know that it did not end well at Ohio State, but like I can't forget how good this dude was when he was coaching at Butler and how good Ohio State was when he first. It's not like he forgot how to coach, right? He brought in the Mullins kid from the Illinois Wolves, who's going to be able to get him some players from that area. Laval Jordan's going to be the best dressed dude on the sideline, and he also has plenty, and he's got plenty of experience coaching in this conference. Like, I think the bottom of this league. I don't know if this is a hot take. Tell me what you guys think, but I would bet that DePaul and Georgetown are good for getting 6 to 7 wins against non-Georgetown and DePaul teams in the conference this year, right?
Is that separate or combined?
Combined. I think that I would set the over-under. I'd set the over-under at 10.5 wins for them combined this season. I think that it's not going to be easy to win those games.
I think it might be possible too. And like you spoke to DePaul with so much turnover. First of all, I think they got an outstanding staff there now, and that's always usually the first step of kind of getting things turned around. So they'll be better. They'll be better from what they've been in years past, for sure, because they've been a bit of a dumpster fire. But for my team that I'm kind of taking a leap of faith on, I'm gonna go with the Butler Bulldogs. I think they got a chance to be really good this year. And to be honest with you, I really liked their unit and their core last year. It helps getting Telford and Brooks back. And then the additions of Kobe King and Patrick McCaffrey from Iowa, I think will kind of go a long way. And I think Thad Mata's done a great job, man. And I really believe that he can get this team to a solid team that's going to possibly compete for a top 4 spot in the Big East, maybe top 5 around that area.
How about that? I mean, that would be like it's been a little while, right, since we've been talking about Butler. I mean, they haven't made the NCAA tournament. I don't have it in front of me. For those who don't know, Wi-Fi in the house is more discombobulated than the middle of Big East play in February right now. But Butler has not been in the tournament in several years. I mean, they've been on a drought. If Thad Matta could get them there, considering
they haven't been to the tournament since 2018. They would have made the tournament in 2020 if the tournament happened.
Yeah, and that was tough on Laval Jordan because they had a tournament caliber team. That would be a very compelling storyline. I think that the key for Butler, point guard play, and then you're relying on Andre Screen to play center. And we know in this league, it's hard. I mean, it's not as loaded with big man talent this year like last year was, absolutely stacked, but there's still going to be emerging bigs in the league. Rob, we haven't gotten to Providence. Kim English put a list together of what he wanted on his roster, and he went after it. I mean, the guys that he sought after, he was able to reel in. They've got money at Providence. They've got structure at Providence. Bryce Hopkins should be back within 2 or 3 weeks to begin the season. He'll be ready for Atlantis, it looks like, for all intents and purposes. What's the key for the Friars, and will they dance?
It's Bryce. It's Bryce. He is, when he is at his best, I think you can make the argument that he is the most impactful scorer in this conference, right? When you're 6'7" and you're 240 the way that he is, and you can shoot, and you could take smaller defenders into the post, and you could take bigger defenders out on the perimeter. Like I think that when he is at his best, he can be dominant. He is a Big East Player of the Year candidate. He's also coming off of a torn ACL where he's been out since, what was it, January of last year, right? And ACLs are not Achilles injuries, right? Like, you are able to come back and get back to who you were afterwards, but that stuff takes time. And my question is, with the window of time that he had, is he going to be able to do all the rehab that he needed to kind of get like the structural strength in his leg back to where he is that player this year? Or will it be next year when he's playing in the NBA that he gets back to that? Like, I just, all the other guys are good pieces, right? Like, I like Jaden Pierre as a point guard. I think that Wesley Cardette and Jabri Abdur-Rahim are going to be like good wings, good floor spacers. They're going to be able to do a job in this league. Bensley Joseph going to be able to do a job. Chris Esendoko is going to be a good big man in this league, right? But all of those pieces are just fine, and they're good enough to be competitive. You can't be that next level without having your stud. And if Bryce Hopkins is not like the Bryce Hopkins that we saw in like what, January and February of 2022, if he gets back to that guy, then it completely changes the scope of what this Providence season can be to me.
I think that this is going to be a really intriguing team to watch, just as they were last year. They fell short, and they didn't do quite enough in non-conference play. You know, they blew the doors off Wisconsin. We know what then Wisconsin kind of became. So for me, Atlantis has got to be big for them. You know, they open with Oklahoma, and then they would meet Arizona. That's a golden opportunity for them. And then they could get, you know, any of Indiana, Louisville, Gonzaga, I think West Virginia. Like, that's an MCE for the Friars. That's
got to win that first one. The biggest thing is you have to win that first game. Like, Oklahoma is going to be bottom of the Big 12. And if you can't beat the team at the bottom of the Big 12, and then you end up having to play in the losers bracket instead of getting, like, if you get 2 shots at Arizona, you said Arizona, Louisville, Indiana, right? If you win, then you're probably going to get, you're probably going to get a game against each one of those. And if you split against them, then you're probably sitting in a pretty good spot. You
are. Yep. And they get BYU at home. That was a nice gift, if you will. You know, not that BYU's bad. They're good. They can make the tournament. They got talent between Dallin Hall and Igor Demin and company.
Hey, those BYU fans are going to come after you, Fanta. You better be nice, man.
They're good. They're good. I'm saying you got BYU to come out to the amp. We have Friars versus Mormons in this early December in Providence. That place is going to be out of control for that game, and the PCBC will be out of control for that as well. But you know, we'll break here in a moment because we've been going for a little while. But you know, we might continue this discussion after the break. Like, the elephant in the room is Villanova. Jerel, what in your mind is going to be the key question to answer this year? Because, like, we know the basic discussion. I don't want this discussion to be, it's Eric Dixon. We all know Eric Dixon. But guess what? That hasn't been enough the last couple of years. To me, it's Jameer Brickus, who transfers over from LaSalle. Like, he has got to give them something at point guard. I don't think, Jerel, any of us thought Mark Armstrong would be gone, but he is. how do you view this Villanova team, and can you understate, like, this is a massive year for that program, and on paper it doesn't look like the expectations are all that high.
No, and I mean, you really can't blame people for not, overstating the expectations for Villanova this year because, you're coming off a year where they were just that high, and they really were active in the portal. And to be honest with you, man, they, in my opinion, and this is just looking at them man for man, they had still, in my opinion, one of the best rosters man for man in the Big East.
Yes,
And
sir.
for whatever reason, it just didn't come together. They had flashes here and there. They played really well, and because I think what was that the Atlantis that I think they beat North Carolina or somebody early in the
They
year.
won Atlantis.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
about to say they won Atlanta. So it was like there were moments where I was like, man, Villanova's got a chance to be like a dark horse Final Four teams, and then the wheels absolutely just fell off. And so when things like that happen and you have the talent and you have the pieces, the first thing everybody does is look to the coach. And for whatever reason, it wasn't clicking. And obviously we know he's out of anybody probably has the hottest seat in the Big East Conference. But at the end of the day, I think it goes a really long way for him getting Dixon back, obviously, and having just that veteran presence in your locker room, a guy with a ton of experience, and he's going to end up being a guy that's going to be one of the best 10 players probably in the conference as well, too. And like you said, I think those transfers are going to be big. I'm just hoping this year, I feel like they didn't go so much for the big names or necessarily talent. I think they went a little bit more fit. They went and grabbed a couple guys, like you said, with Brickus, with guys from LaSalle, and then the other kid as well from Penn, Perkins. So they, hopefully these guys fit a little bit better. They kind of buy into the culture at Villanova. I know that's a big thing, or at least it was when they were riding high with Jay Wright, and they can get back to who they are. But right now, I think expectations are what they should be for them, because this roster isn't going to necessarily blow you away. So let's see if they can put it all together and the pieces just fit a little bit better, and they can get some synergy going into this thing.
Kenny, this is what they did before Christmas last year. Listen to this. They beat Maryland at home. They beat Texas Tech on a neutral. They beat North Carolina on a neutral. They beat Memphis on a neutral.
Unbelievable.
UCLA
Crazy.
at home. They won at Creighton. They did all that before Christmas, and they missed the NCAA tournament.
Kyle Neptune, at this point, like you guys have already said, and I think everybody in the country is saying, he's got the hottest seat in the Big East, maybe in the country. And is he able to put that aside and coach a basketball team? Because there's so much pressure, and if you're gonna put that pressure onto your team and make them feel that, like, it's not, they need to be good, they need to play well, but it's not their job to keep your job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be able to put a group of guys out there, get them to do what you want them to do in a way that motivates them to want to play well. If you're gonna go put them out there and be like, and really make them feel like, my job's on the line, is he going to be able to put these guys out there and make it happen? I think that with the guys that they brought in, you go in this transfer portal era, it's so difficult to know how these guys are going to play well together, or if they're going to play well together, I should say. But I think that that's the biggest key for them, is just getting back to playing basketball and not so much being worried about, like, man, Villanova used to be this big thing in the Big East, and now we're, sitting where we haven't made an NCAA tournament in a couple of years, and possibly not for a third year in a row. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is being able to put this group of guys out there and get the most out of them, and not really be thinking towards the future and thinking about maybe I might lose my job.
Mm-hmm.
Critical season, to say the least. They're going to get Virginia in Baltimore the second week of the season. And frankly, like, when you look at Virginia now, that's a real opportunity for Villanova just to get their feet off the ground.
Yep.
They're going to get Maryland at the Prudential Center 3 weeks into the season. That is a big game, for both those teams and kind of where they stand. The Big Five did them in last year. For those who don't know, those games are just different, man. They just are. But they get Cincinnati at home early December. Like, that's a manageable conference challenge game for them. But the Bearcats look like they're going to be good with the talent that they've got. Jizzle James and company are coming into Villanova. That's going to be a really interesting game, as well as I see Kenny smiling because I did bring up that other school. We're going to break. After this, all conference teams Sleepers, a hot take, if you will, and we'll put a bow on this Big East preview on the Field of 68 after dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Field 68 After Dark Big East Preview Edition. It's time to turn to my alma mater, the Seton Hall Pirates, coming off of an NIT championship. And Shaheen Holloway, in his first 2 years on this job, has put up the most wins in the first 2 years on the Seton Hall job by any head coach in the history of the program. Look, this is a roll-up-your-sleeves place. You've got to grind it out, and you got to find a way. Last year, Seton Hall went 13-7. They went 13-7 in the Big East. Yes, they lost the majority of their roster, but Scotty Middleton is poised to be a stud, guys. He looks the part of an all-Big East player. Prince Aligbe, physical. Chauncey Jenkins, another physical wing. They have a lot of versatility at the wing. The key for this team is simple. Can they get enough from their front court, which it feels like we're asking that of a lot of teams in this league. Yasin Toomey comes in from Evansville. They have high expectations, and Emmanuel Okorafor comes in from Louisville. If this team does get, last year, Jaden Bediako was a godsend. I think Isaiah Coleman is going to make a nice sophomore leap, and Dylan Adewusu is back in experience in that grizzled vet. Rob, I'm not betting against Shaheen Holloway. I think the Pirates are going to be in the mix again and can dance come March if everything goes the right way. Last year, a lot went wrong for them to miss the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you have when you have a Kadari Richmond, you have a guy that can go out and win you a game at any point in the season, right? And I don't know if they have that, but in terms of just having like a bunch of dogs and a bunch of guys that just fit what Shaw wants to do, like I've learned that I'm just never going to say like, yeah, Seton Hall doesn't have a chance. Like Shaw is going to make sure that they have a chance, and he's going to make sure that they're fighting, and he's going to make sure that they're playing their best basketball in March. And that's just what he does. And why would you ever think that he's not going to do that? And now, I mean, he's got a lineup where he's going to have no one smaller than 6'5" in the starting lineup. They're going to be switchable everywhere. They're going to be tough. They're going to be old. They're going to be physical. And yeah, maybe they're going to win some games 50-49, but like they're going to win those games. So yep. I think Seton Hall's got a chance. I'd have them in the same mix as Providence and Butler and maybe Villanova. I think Villanova might be a little bit. I got to see it to believe it from Kyle Neptune. But I mean, look, it's Shaheen Holloway, man. You bet against him at your own risk.
All conference teams here because we only have a couple of minutes. I'm going to run through Jerel. Kenny, you tell me if you disagree here. Ryan Kalkbrenner, Cam Jones, Eric Dixon, Kadari Richmond, Alex Caravan.
I think you got to have those five on the first team.
Bryce Hopkins coming off an injury, you know.
That was the one I was thinking of. I was thinking Pop Isaacs maybe.
Could emerge. I mean, if he's that level, then Creighton's going to be really, really good.
Hey, look, Kenny's over there like they haven't said a single Xavier player yet.
Yeah.
Wait,
No, I mean,
wait, boys.
no, I just think that on paper, 100%. If you're talking about the preseason, absolutely, that would be my pick, and I think most people's picks for the preseason Big East team. But I think that there's 4 guys even on Xavier's team. Not saying all 4 of them are going to be Big East all first team, but I'm just saying I think that there are guys on that team that can make a case for themselves with their play through the season. And that's the same every year. There's going to be guys that over exceed at their position or in the season that they're playing. But you look at a guy like Conwell, I think that he's proven himself at a high level against a lot of good teams, and the way that he plays the game. I think that he's going to command a lot of respect. You come, December, January, you're going to start to see that guy really exceed through the rankings.
Let me ask you this: who do you think is going to be Xavier's best player? Because I've kind of had this conversation with other people. Fremantle coming off the injury, the buzz around Ryan Conville this offseason has gotten to the point where it's like I've kind of had to temper my expectations.
Yeah.
Because it's like, is this guy going to come in and average 24 points a game? Because that's where this hype level has gotten to.
I've talked about it multiple times, and I go back to when I played basketball in Europe. When you look at the best teams in Europe, you have 6 or 7 guys that average 10 points a game, and they're playing 25, 30 minutes a game. They're not playing the whole game and being that guy. And I sort of have this hope for Xavier that that's kind of how they're going to be. But I do think that when it comes down to big game situations, that Conwell's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think he's going to be that guy for this team. Bold predictions here. Bold predictions. Anybody want to bite on a big, bad, bold prediction for the season?
I got a couple.
Go
ahead. You go first, Jerel.
I got a really good one, and I don't even know if you would consider this bold, but I'm getting up on my soapbox here, and I'm gonna go to battle for my guy. Let's not this year. We're not giving Kalkbrenner his 10th Defensive Player of the Year. We are going back old school, and we're gonna take it back to the perimeter, and we are gonna give my man Stevie Mitchell his just due. Kalkbrenner obviously is a shoe-in, a guy that averages 3 blocks, and I'm not saying that to slight him in any way. We all know how important he is for what Creighton has done and how great he's been over the years. But man, as a former winner of the award, I should say, it's very rare where you get perimeter guys who get their just due on the defensive end. And just in this case, I think Stevie Mitchell is one of those guys who needs to at least be acknowledged just for what he's done over the last couple of years. I watched that guy. He's an endless ball of energy, man. He's gotten stronger and better each and every year, and he's a guy that doesn't shy away from taking a challenge each and every night. Before the game tips off, you know who's going to be guarding the other team's best player. If he's a perimeter player, it's going to be Stevie Mitchell. He's going to be on them 94 feet. He's going to be sliding his feet and showing his hands, man. And everybody on that team kind of feeds off of that and just his energy. So that's going to be my bold prediction this year. Let's get Stevie Mitchell that Defensive Player of the Year award.
You got something, Kenny?
And I kind of already brought mine up. I think that Georgetown, just with the guys that they brought in, and I know that you guys are talking about 10 and a half wins or more as the over under for Georgetown and DePaul, but I really think that Georgetown is going to come out and turn a lot of heads. That's what I've been thinking about when I was doing my research for this stream. I really think that the group of guys they got put together over there is going to turn a lot of heads, and I'm excited to watch them play this year because Georgetown being good is good for everybody.
Fanta, I got 2. Okay. My first one is that I think when we get to March, everyone's going to be in consensus that Solo Ball is actually UConn's best player. Love Alex Caravan. I think that Alex Caravan is a connective piece, a role player, and will make $50 million in the NBA being a connective piece and a role player. That's what he does best. I think we will see that this year, and that we will see that Solo Ball is UConn's best player. My other is that by the time we get to the end of the season, there is going to be a consensus by everybody sitting on this panel right here, a consensus with most people nationally that there's one guy from the Big East that is the player of the year. There's one guy in the Big East that needs to be on a first-team All-American team, and that will be in the mix with the likes of Cam Sears and of Mark Sears and RJ Davis when it comes to the best guard in America, and that is the Field of 68 fashion correspondent, none other than Cam Jones. I think he's going to average 20 points a game. I think he's going to average like 4 assists a game. I think Shaka's going to put the ball in his hands. You're going to have 27 shooters around him. When you have a front line that has David Joplin and Ben Gold in it, those guys are going to stand around on the perimeter. There's going to be space in the paint. I think you're going to see a different level of passing from Cam Jones, and I think that he's going to have an unbelievable season this year, and I don't think anyone is giving him nearly enough credit for what he can be. He's going to take a step forward, and he averaged 17, 3, and 3 last year.
Can he work his way into that first round, Rob?
I mean, look. Well, here's my question, Jerel. He's listed at 6'5". You think he's actually 6'5"?
I think he's 6'4".
He's 6'4". He's 6'4" if you're 6'4", Jerel. He's 6'4" if you're 6'4".
Might be 6'4". You know, you got the heel lifts in, man. The platform shoes nowadays. Yeah, they give him 6'4".
First round, second round, whatever it is, I think that he's gonna be on an NBA roster next season.
I do too.
And here's my bold take. If you took Cooper Flagg out of college basketball this year, I think you will end up saying in March, Liam McNeely is the National Freshman of the Year. I think he will be a top 4 pick in the NBA draft. I think he has a massive impact on what UConn does. I think he's beyond his years, plays aggressively, plays the Hurley way. That's 1. 2, Xavier makes the Elite Eight and is sitting in a regional final with a chance to get to that elusive Final Four. And I'm not just pandering to Kenny Frease. I actually believe it, despite Sean Miller being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Fellas, this was a lot of fun. This was great. Awesome to see you. And we know one thing, there's no league that produces the frivolity and the back and forth jabbing quite like the Big East. And this year is a critical year for the league to get off its back after just 3 bids in the tournament. But this league, with the bids that they've got in the last 2 years, has won quite a bit of games. And not just UConn, but Marquette and Creighton did that.
National champs.
Last year.
National champs.
And the Huskies have been on the mountaintop.